2 years on, and it's still impossible to review a city building sim without referencing the infamous SimCity 2013 launch, with its broken yet mandatory multiplayer, cramped cities, and buggy, awkward, over-designed systems. It represented a failed attempt to turn the humble city management game into something it was never intended to be. Yet perhaps SimCity's failure was in fact a blessing in disguise for the genre, because it's allowed smaller studios like the 9-person team at City Skylines developer Colossal Order to step out of the shadow of the most famous city building franchise of them all and go back to the root of what made the genre so addictive and rewarding in its heyday: freedom, scale, and intuitive, satisfying construction mechanics. What's immediately impressive about City Skylines is a way that it separates the fundamental mechanics of the city building game into satisfying little bite-sized chunks. Roads, whether straight, curved or freeform, can be lazily scrawled across the map, elevated if necessary to cross train tracks and rivers. Then industrial, residential and commercial zones can be painted onto your city grid, leaving you to get on with other business as the appropriate structures slowly rise from the ground. It's like watching your homemade bread rising in the oven, slowly morphing from a pile of shapeless mush into something delicious and tantalising. Yep, City Skylines is like homemade bread, you heard it here first. You get these tactile little moments and systems in games that stick with you because they're so inherently satisfying to use. City Skylines painting tool is one of these. Rather than individual scenarios, the game sticks to a kind of free play mode, so you sort of have to set your own goals, which are generally decided by the plot of land you've chosen. If you've picked a peaceful arable area, you can opt to create a bustling farming town, whereas if you find yourself with tons upon tons of surplus coal and oil, you'll probably opt for a more smog-ridden industrial noise factory, which will bring in lots of cash, but maybe make it a bit harder to attract tourists and educated yuppie types. Depending on how you choose to focus your industrial zones, they'll also shift visually over time to match. Farming areas are all huge grain silos and open pens, while logging towns will be full of stacked up lumber piles. These industrial, residential and commercial zones will evolve over time too, starting off as depressing little shacks and upgrading as your city becomes ever more affluent. The models will change and they'll also start to bring in more cash, and this is all done automatically without your prompting. It's another way in which City Skylines avoids fiddly micromanagement in favour of letting you get on with more pressing matters, like making sure your sewage pipes aren't placed upstream from your water treatment plant. Turns out civilians don't like brown water. Every time you reach a population milestone, you'll rank up your city from a little hamlet all the way up to a true metropolis. Each new level unlocks a new set of toys and features, slowly introducing you to more and more complex mechanics. Initially, you'll only really have to worry about providing enough electricity and water to keep your homes powered. After a while, crime will become an issue, then education, fire safety, traffic congestion and so on. Not throwing all this at the player right from the start is a smart move, and the progression system gives you a constant sense of growth and challenge. There's always something new to master. There's also an achievement system that keeps an eye on the way you're developing your city, giving you access to unique buildings once you've satisfied specific requirements. If you're running a modernised city with excellent education facilities, for example, you'll eventually unlock the Hadron Collider Monument or a National Science Museum. These can be plonked down for a little extra visual pizzazz, but they also keep your civilians happy and earn a nice little flow of cash on the side. Really, aside from the satisfaction of watching your city grow, which is fine on its own, this is the only impetus the game really gives you to keep going in a particular direction. Some players might prefer a more focused, goal-driven structure, but I think most will appreciate the way City Skylines is content to simply give you the freedom and tools you need to build and let you get on with things. It's the polar opposite of SimCity 2013, with its restrictive, cramped feel and unnecessary busywork. The policy system lets you dig into the inner workings of your metropolis even further. You can issue these edicts at a city-wide level, enacting policies like smoking bans and mandatory smoke detector installation, usually gaining a positive result at the cost of either some cash or a drop in happiness. Banning smoking city-wide, for example, will improve people's health but make them a bit grumpier. What's more interesting is the way in which you can use these policies to carve out distinct areas within your city. A district creation tool allows you to paint one area, give it its own name, and then allows you to issue policies to that specific zone. Say you want to make a financial centre at the heart of your city. You can simply draw over your chosen borough with the district tool, name it New Wall Street or whatever, and then head into the policy menu to offer tax breaks for office buildings in that district. As soon as your bustling hub of capitalist pig dogs is well staffed, well established and thriving, you can then enter the district policy screen again and raise taxes, skimming a healthy profit from your fat cats. This is a smart way of simplifying the management of a big city and allowing you to customise certain zones. Visually, the game goes for a kind of model city look that perhaps lacks the gloss and building density of bigger budget titles, but makes up for that with oodles of charm. You can't zoom right down to street level, but you can take the camera close in to watch your citizens wander to and fro from work or shopping, observe Colossal Order's impressive traffic flow mechanics, or just enjoy your bustling creation. For the most part, the game does a great job of providing the feedback that you need to keep your city running efficiently. There are a series of visual filters that you can apply, covering everything from overall health to local wind speeds. Sometimes the feedback can be a little too vague. I managed at one point to create some kind of ultra virus that wiped out a good 20,000 people, and I never quite worked out why my quaint, modest little city had suddenly given birth to the next Black Death, but such instances are thankfully rare. Notifications, hints and tips do a good job of making sure you don't ruin your city accidentally. Cities Skylines is a breath of fresh, unpolluted air. It's a meaty slice of city management that hides its real depth with some impressively easy to grasp mechanics. That Colossal Order managed to out SimCity with a team roughly a tenth of the size is pretty remarkable, and the obvious love for the genre the developers have bleeds through every aspect of the game. There are a couple of notable omissions. It would be nice, for example, to be able to alter map terrain in game. Disasters aren't included, and overall variety in building style is somewhat limited, but Colossal Order has already announced that it's working to solve these issues post-launch, with tunnel roads and railways set to be added in the game's first free patch, and more region-specific buildings surely on the way soon. Regardless, these are pretty minor quibbles considering the wealth of content already in City Skylines, and that's not even taking into account the addition of Steam Workshop support and easy to grasp mod tools, both of which will ensure a steady stream of content from the community. There's already a decent roster of maps, ready-made cities, building designs and more to download, and the game's not even hit the shelves yet. It's a sign that Colossal Order cottons on to the reason people like these city building games. They want freedom, not restriction, streamlined, easy to use systems, and not needless complexity. In that sense, City Skylines is a resounding success. In summary, here's the city builder you've been waiting for. City Skylines gets a very impressive 8.5 out of 10.